a Friday morning. We have been doing an overview of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter by chapter. We have reached so far up to the almost to the end of third canto. We are today discussing from third canto 32 chapter. We'll probably summarize today 32nd chapter, and then we're left for we're left with one more chapter, 33 chapter. So just to give you a quick recap of what's going on, few chapters before Mother Devati asked a question to Lord Kapila about Bhakti Yoga. Prior to that, there had been already discussion about Jnana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, etc. And then she asked a question about Bhakti Yoga. Then she talked about, or she asked a question about the influence of time. And then she also asked the question about samsara. So more or less this question have been answered. However, in this chapter, after describing the previous chapter about the birth of a living entity, samsara means birth, death, old age, disease, and again the same thing cycled. So in this chapter, his activities are being described. What happens after a child takes birth? So Sakama Karma Yoga was the first discussion. How he performs Sakama. He's attached to his desires, dharma, artha, kama. He practices dharma so that he can get artha, so that he can fulfill his kama. And Srila Prabhupada in this section was making a point that how many times it is seen people come to the path of dharma just so that they can get some freedom from suffering. Yes or no? Dharma, suffering means then you get artha, then you can fulfill your kama. So this is all sakama karma yoga. Or sakam karma yoga is not precisely mentioned here. And we see that Bhagavad Gita also says that Krishna says four kind of chaturvida bhajante mam jana sukritan arjuna artho arthati gyani jigyasucha bharata sabha. So these four kinds of people are mentioned. So it's not as completely bad. Krishna says the four kind of pious living entities is a stepping stone, but this is not what has been recommended. So sakam is what people have desires, and that's the reason they take part in dharmic activities. And our scriptures largely talk about purushartha, dharma, artha, kama. And when you're frustrated in this world, struggling for your well-being, maintenance, and got to struggle very hard, Krishna says, right, in 15th chapter, what is that? Mama Yamamsu Jiva Loka Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. What is the next line? Shashrani Indrani Pratisthani Karshati. He's struggling, Karshan, he's always in friction. So like that, he's always struggling with his senses, including the mind, which is a sixth sense, highlighted sometimes. So then when he gets frustrated, trying to enjoy the matter, which is stale and tasteless, in fact, he gets frustrated, and then he talks about moksha. And then after that, in this chapter, the detached worker was described. So those who follow the path of sakama, they ascend to the heavenly planets, to the Chandrama Loka. And those who are detached, jnanis or yogis, they ascend up to Brahma Loka through the path of Surya, like that. So this is being described in the second canto, first and the second chapter also. And then after describing these two, and then Kapil Dev says, well, even if they go to Brahma Loka, they got to stay there until the end of Brahma's life. And even after the end of Brahma's life, when this creation ends, then everyone goes back with Mahavishnu. However, Brahma may go back to Godhead if he had become a pure devotee. But if in case, even after reaching to Brahma Loka, somebody doesn't become a pure devotee, which means becomes a devotee of Lord Vishnu, he cannot go back to Godhead. He merges into Mahavishnu, and then in the next creation, he appears again. Then Kapil Dev says, well, what's the point of all this? When you follow Sakam, you go to Pitraloka. Whoever you worship Devata, you go there. You worship Bhuta Preta, you go to their planets. You worship Pitta, you go there. And if in case Jnani and Yogi, you struggle hard on your effort to make a progress, at the end of the day, Shama Evahi Kevalam. If some Shuddhi Haritoshanam, by our endeavors, you're not able to please the Lord, everything is useless and waste. Because even after ascending to the highest planet in this creation, you have to again come back, take birth. So then Kapila says, so well, what's the point of all this thing? Better take to Bhakti Yoga. And that's what is being described. So we read last time until verse number 23. So in this set of verses, what Kapila is saying? Well, take to the Bhakti Yoga. Text number 22. From there, this discussion begins. Tasmatum sarvabhavena bhajasva parameshtinam tad gunashraya bhaktya bhajaniya padamujam. So worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My dear mother, I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for his lotus feet are worth worshipping. Accept this with all devotion and love, for thus you can be situated in transcendental devotional service. So that's the summary. Tasmat, therefore. So everything else is useless. Take to the process bhakti. Text number 23. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janatiya Suvairagyam Jnanam Yad Brahma Darshan. Engagement in Krishna consciousness, application devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment. Janatiya Suvairagyam Jnanam Cha Brahma Darshanam, as well as in self-realization. We'll be able to provide verses for the online audience, or Mother Medavri generally prefers to do that. Otherwise, she can give her the sharing right. She can do that. So now the discussion is on the subject matter of practice bhakti. And all of us who have been in Krishna conscious movement for years together, we have been hearing about it from the day one. Bhakti, bhakti, bhakti. So we have taken to bhakti, but how do you define progressive bhakti? हम कर तो रहे हैं bhakti. We are somewhere content and satisfied. We are doing bhakti. But how do you define progressive bhakti? It's something we would like to discuss today. Let's see what happens. Because these are something which we have read many times. Now, text number 24 talks about devotees, that to advanced devotees. Let's take a look at a few of the verses and we'll talk about what is progressive bhakti. Yadasya chittamartheshu sameshu indriya vrittibhi na vigranati vaishamyam priyam apriyam iti uta. The exalted devotee's mind becomes equipoised in sensory activities, and he is transcendental to that which is agreeable and not agreeable, which means dualities. Agreeable and not agreeable. That means dualities. Right, wrong, like that. He's beyond the three modes of material nature. And the exalted devotee's mind is equipoised in sensory activities, which means he's not driven by sensual pleasure. It's not that I like this, I dislike this. Let's read a little bit puppet and then we'll open for discussion on this. Third line of the puppet by Srila Prabhupada. For him, there is nothing agreeable or disagreeable because it does not act in any way for his personal sense gratification. Advanced devotee, mature devotee. So let's open up a forum for a little thought process and discussion. What does it mean to be a mature devotee? I'll give you one example. There could be many examples, but I'll give you one example that comes to my mind. This is back in early 2000s, somewhere 2003 or 2004. Our devotees from Pune, they had one more devotee who was very enthusiastic, very sincere practitioner, but his conduct was a little strange. And that was really causing an anxiety or disturbance to the management body. And they just didn't know how to deal. He was not doing anything wrong, but his conduct and behavior was a little strange for them. And they were getting disturbed by this. So they took an appointment of His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj and went to meet Maharaj. And then they began to describe their ordeal and challenges in relation to that devotee. And they said, everyone, 5, 6 of the management leaders, the devotees, they began to say, Maharaj, he does like this, Maharaj, he does like this, Maharaj, he does like this. And Maharaj heard maybe for 5, 10 minutes. And he said, what's the problem then? Is there anything wrong? And everyone was shocked. They had gone with such a heavy head that, this devotee needs to be fixed. He has got this problem. And Maharaj says, what's the problem? Is there any problem? And all five of them got utterly confused. They got confused. Did Maharaj understood what we are trying to say? Or did we went somewhere wrong in expressing ourselves? What's our problem? And there was a pin drop silence. They didn't know what to say. They were looking at, they were clueless. They have gone with such a heavy heart telling Maharaj, there is a problem, there is a problem. I said, there's no problem only. Now, how do you justify your situation? And the Maharaj said, is he breaking equilibrium principles? No. Is he not chanting 6 chants? No. Is he not coming for morning program? No. And Maharaj said, where is the problem? He said, what you have come, if you think this is a problem, then you will not understand the problem that I have to deal. There's no problem. Go back and change your perceptions. So 2 points I'd like to mention about maturity. Of course, this is not explicitly mentioned when we discuss the subject matter. But if you take a look at it, this verse also says, exalted devotee's mind. Perceptions are a function of what? Mind. The exalted devotee's mind becomes equipoised. Sukhe dukhe same kritva lava lava jaya jaya. In what condition does or can a mind become equipoised? There's only one situation. Brahma bhuta prasanatma na sochati na akakshati. That is not a condition. That is a consequence. I gave you the consequence to ask your further question. What is a condition? That's not a condition. That's a consequence. Brahma bhuta prasanatma na sochati na akakshati. Same thing, right? His mind, sameshu indriya vrittibhihi yada sachittam arteshu. In what condition his mind becomes equipoised? In what condition would our mind become equipoised? There's only one condition. When our mind is focused on the unchangeable reality. What is the unchangeable reality? I'm not going to give you direct answers today. I'm going to dig your consciousness to extract some answers. So I'm going to speak a little abstract today. So what is that unchangeable reality that we should focus on? Any thoughts? The unchangeable reality, which doesn't changes. And only if our mind can focus on that, then only we can become equipoised. And when I will reverse the whole story, then you will understand, yes, this is correct. But what is that unchangeable reality? Yes, quick, fast.
Hare Krishna. Hare
What does
Krishna,
it mean?
Hari Bol.
Explain. What does it mean?
That our duty, the job of the soul is to focus on doing serving Lord Krishna and his reservation.
So, unchangeable reality is our dharma. Another word meaning for unchangeable reality is dharma. What is our dharma? To serve. If only we can focus on this component of service, seva. And then who is the object of seva? Lord. If we can only focus on that, then only we can be fixed. The exalted devotee's mind become equipoised in sense react and is transcended to that which is agreeable and not agreeable. I'll come back to this point. Let's lead further. So here is said, for him there's nothing agreeable. He does not act in any way for his personal sense gratification. So I was saying maturity means his mind becomes focused on unchangeable reality, which means what is my dharma, regardless of what is happening around. What is happening? He is not bothered about what is happening around. What this devotee is doing. Oh, this devotee fell down. Oh, this devotee did this. Nothing. Because the mind focuses on everything else apart from us, then will always remain disturbed. So that is the first thing about unchangeable reality and rising above the modes of material nature. But there is a preliminary step also. We'll discuss in a short while. Let's go ahead. Whatever it does, whatever it thinks is for the satisfaction of the personality of Godhead. And now how would it begin? It begins with when you focus on seva, isn't it? Unless your focus is on seva, where is the question? So it's a very important point. How many times in our life when we are doing service, we even think it that it is for the pleasure of Guru and Goranga? How would you like? So when you do service, what would you say at your level of consciousness or at my level of consciousness? Let's make it personal. I do service as a matter of duty or with an understanding and consciousness. Let me do it for the pleasure of Guru and Goranga. And what would be the consequences of both? What do you think? So, what is at your level of kind? What happens? How many will say when I do seva, like late cleaning, like prasadam cooking or serving, like book distribution, or cleaning the floor, or setting up the streaming service, anything, you know, I do it for the pleasure of Guru Guranga. How many of you? Yeah, no problem. Raise your hand. So whoever thinks, okay, one. How many of you do it? Two. How many of you do it as a matter of duty? It's a good starting point, but it's not a good situation to be. Because when you do it as a matter of duty, it is again within the three modes of material nature. When you are acting on the platform duty, that is called as mode of goodness. And if you don't like something, you will not do it. Yes or no? Sankalpa and Vikalpa will continue. So devotees are not supposed to act on goodness. Goodness is a springboard, but we are supposed to act on pure goodness. What is a symptom of pure goodness? We serve it with an understanding. Let it be for the pleasure of Guru and Garanga. When you talk about for the pleasure of Guru and Garanga, then there is a question of your pleasure. And if there's no question of your pleasure, then you're willing to accept inconveniences and even at times blame for no fault, at times criticism, at times chastisement, and still will continue to serve. Yes or no? But imagine if you are blamed while doing seva, you are criticized, you are chastised, and you are situated on the platform duty. Will you become discouraged and you'll say, what is use of it? Yes or no? So when we talk about, when we're talking about of exalted devotee, advanced devotee, certain things we got to keep in our mind as a part of a culture. What we are doing, for whom we are doing, if that is there, then we can handle the dualities of this world. Is there anyone in this world while doing service have not been criticized, have not faced challenges, beginning even from the Lord Himself, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What is the Goswamis? The temples built by Goswamis are broken. Not temples built by Goswamis, the temples built by Manjaris. Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, their temples were broken, destroyed. So the material world, you're always going to have challenges, you're always going to have conflict. So how do you sustain, how you survive, how you go beyond? When from the beginning of our training, our focus is set on doing it for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. Therefore, it is said, the mind has become equipoised in sensory activities because when we do things based on I like and dislike, it's very short-lived and it's very frustrating experience. And that situation only devotee will say, I quit. I give up the seva. There's no question of it. We have all read Prabhupada Lilamrita, isn't it? Can you imagine Prabhupada being the greatest proponent of Vedic culture? And one of the greatest aspect of Vedic culture is the cows. Prabhupada himself was lover of cows, established goshalas. And same Srila Prabhupada back in India in Delhi, he was hit by a cow or a buffalo, bull. Now, and he was hit by a bull in a hot sunny afternoon and he fainted, collapsed on the ground. If you and I would have been there, we would have woken up and asked Krishna, Krishna, कोई रिक्शा वाला ठोकर मार देता मैं स्वीकार लेता, कोई आदमी ठोकर मार लेता मैं स्वीकार देता. You wanted to get me a karmic reaction. Let's say it's a karmic, of course, karma or whatever. Why bull? Why cow? What have I done? Who you love, who you care, who you want to protect. So this world is very ugly, very ugly. So how can you? He becomes transcendental, which is agreeable and not agreeable. ये सब पढ़ के इसलिए वो बाउंसर हो जाता है. क्योंकि जब स्थिति जीवन में आती है ना, this all seems impractical because our training has to be focused from beginning. Why are we doing service? Whatever it does, whatever thing is for the satisfaction of the personality guru and also personality of God, which means for the pleasure of guru and Gauranga. Either in the material world or in the spiritual world, his equipoised mind is completely manifested. He can understand that in the material world there is nothing good. Everything is bad due to its being contaminated by material nature. How will you understand everything in this world is bad? When we have lived in this world for so long with utter attachment, deep attachment, how will we understand this is bad? So, two things you can define a mature devotee. Let me make the first point now. Second point I already made. Mature devotee means, as this verse is talking about, I'll give you the summary of the rest of the chapter because it's a very important verse. I'm going a little detail. So, mature devotee means first, our perceptions must be changing. Our perceptions should change. What our perceptions should change? When we come to the path of bhakti or when we begin spiritual life, how many of you agree we come with the perception the world is created for my enjoyment? Yes or no? Say loudly. So when we come to the path of bhakti, or even if we not come to the path of bhakti, at our conditioned state, our perception is the world is created for my enjoyment. Everyone around here should serve me, and everything is for my gratification, which is entirely against our nature. Some of us, by Lord's grace, got frustrated in that endeavor. And somewhere, if you all agree and you look at it, somewhere we had experienced vacuum in our heart. Something is missing. You know, maybe in my current situation, looks like everything is happening as I wanted, but there's still some vacuum. And then we got a little bit Krishna Prasad, Harinam, or somewhere devotee association, and that vacuum suddenly was filled, and we felt a sense of joy. If you would not have had an experience of joy, you would not be sitting here today. Somewhere temporarily that vacuum was filled. And that experience of joy gave us a confidence Krishna is God, not I. And if I serve him, only then this vacuum can be filled. And as we are becoming mature, our perceptions would have to change and would be changing. And our perceptions will become, for a mature devotee, the world is not for my enjoyment. This world is for my seva. I need to serve. And through seva, I get that pleasure. Is that making sense? How do we rise above the duality if our perceptions have not changed? How do we rise above duality? How do we become equipoised in mind if whatever we do is not dedicated for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga? If you're acting on the platform of goodness also, can you take it beyond the goodness? Unless we act on the platform of Shuddha Sattva, we cannot transcend goodness. So, I'll talk about the caveat here. Let's move forward. He can understand that the material world is nothing good. So there is a change of perception. He can understand in the material world there is nothing good. Everything is bad due to its being contaminated by material nature. The materialist conclusions of good and bad, etc. That's okay. So that's the point. So our perceptions have to change. So now we can sit back and think about it. You know, what all perceptions we brought about and what all perceptions have to change. Just like I was giving an example of the devotees who went to meet Maharaj and Maharaj changed their perception about that devotee. There's nothing wrong. And then these devotees tell me later on, when they came back, they lived very happily with that devotee. And that devotee is still in Pune. Is one of the senior devotees, therefore I'm not giving any names here. One of the senior devotee. And they lived happily thereafter. And the problem was with our perceptions. How many times have we agreed at one point of time in our life, let's say devotional life, with particular devotee we were having friction, and our perception became about him is he's bad, he's this, he's that, he's that. Yes. How many of you had that experience after a few weeks, few months, or few years? Our perception for the same devotee changed. And now we say, he's such a wonderful Vaishnava. How many of you had that experience? Please raise your hand. So, a very important point. Please do not take your fleeting perception seriously. How much time we waste in these things? In defending and justifying our whims of mind. Rather than doing that, if we can focus our mind on the unchangeable reality, which means service to Krishna, would we make a faster and smoother advancement rather than talking about this relationship issue, that issue, or not? So this is about this. Now, the another factor, the greatest challenge, I'll not go into detail, but just to a little bit introduce here, we're talking about how to become Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, how to become a person of equipoised nature, how to rise above the dualities. The greatest challenge, okay, let me ask you, what do you think is the greatest challenge for you to rise above the duality and become a person of equipoised mind? Quick thoughts, one word answer. What is the greatest challenge to achieve this?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Babaji.
Attachment. What is the greatest challenge
Hare Krishna.
for becoming
false
mature,
ego.
ripened devotee, like this verse talks about? Yes, quick.
Past belief. Rigid होते हैं कभी कभी.
Rigidness. Yes. Forgetfulness. Online devotees, unmute and start speaking. I don't know if you're speaking anything. Gotta be quick with inputs.
Our false ego.
Yes. The only answer is false ego. False ego. False ego would not allow our perceptions to be changed. False ego would not allow us to become stable. Because the nature of false ego is to defend I. What I think is correct. What I do is correct. And as long as we are governed by false ego, we will continue resisting changes, will remain in the past. Once His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj gave a beautiful story in this regard. But before I give the story, let me ask you, what is the solution for dissolving false ego? What is the solution? Anyone? Yes, Kamalapur. Hit with the broom in the morning and mop in the night, something like that. Beating. Beating what? Sir ki massage karna? Pat. What? Beating means what? How do you beat false ego? Okay, so which means chastisement. But what's the point of giving chastisement when you cannot take it? And if you cannot take it, then what's the point? And if you cannot take it, how can we move it? Move forward. What else? How do you dilute false ego? Follow. Okay, but false ego is, that's the whole thing, no? False ego will not allow you to follow. False ego will say, my way is the only way. My way is the highway. I know better. That's a false ego. Those who can follow, which means, see, something to follow means if I say, okay, class over, go for prasadam, very easy to follow. Now you say, Prabhuji, I follow. Every morning when you say go for prasadam, I happily follow. So you understand, it's not about following everything. So there will be things, there will be challenges to surrender. Okay, how do you dilute false ego? By taking the transcendental knowledge, and that transcendental knowledge becomes a whole burden on the head because that increases pride. Because the false ego will make us think, I know better. I know so much. And if you see, so many Gyanis from a movement have left for that reason only. Transcendental knowledge. The function of transcendental knowledge is should purify us. And how it should purify us? The first aspect is humility. And the quality of humility is to accept the higher dictation. Which means now we let go. Okay, what else? Anything else? Yes, go ahead, quick. Bolte raho. Association. Association is our Rambad. हर चीज के लिए. Which is good answer. But what happens? Yeah, associations definitely. And in that, I would say the peer association is very, very vital. Because the amount of purification the peer association does. P for peer, P for purification. And those who run from peer association This is again they're defining the false ego. How? You'll find people, let's say about brahmachari ashram, you'll find brahmacharis who will not have friends within the same ashram. Living in Pune, they'll have friend in Delhi ashram. They'll have friend in Mayapur ashram. Why? They meet once in a year. So once in a year they come here, you greet them very well. You go once in a year, they greet you very well. So they say, this is my good friend because he pampers my false ego. If you go somewhere else, would they welcome you well? Now, when you go to your own temple, when you come back to community, कोई नहीं पूछने वाला प्रसाद खाया नहीं खाया है, बोला आ गया इतना लेट क्यों आया, तेरी सेवा थी ना 4 बजे, चल सेवा पिला, घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर. तो अपने संग में रहते हुए ना जो उसकी फ्रिक्शन होती है ना उसकी वो लगती है. सो वी हैव टू बी केयरफुल. Are we protecting our philosophy? And you see that's what we do most of the time. We like to be in those associations, those who tell us, कितना अच्छा है तू, तुझसे अच्छा तो कोई है ही नहीं. And we look at him and we tell him, तू ही मेरा सच्चा दोस्त है. So, I mean, somewhat little bit is needed. So we should definitely have this kind of interaction, but that should not become our survival because that is not going to happen. So now, and those individuals who are egoistic, you see they'll become loner. They will not be able to gel because they think कोई मेरी respect ही नहीं करता. They'll go and stay in the corner. It's not good. It's not safe. Now, what does it indicate? If you look at a person, then can you go and chastise him? Then you say, Baba, ठीक है, whatever you are able to do, then we'll say the same thing. Let transcendental knowledge purify him. Actually, if something works out. So senior association is there, but senior association is about receiving. For receiving, do we have the patrata for receiving? You know, the senior is not going to give unless he is confident you can receive and hold it. And if that has not been thoroughly tested and confirmed, then what's the point of giving? Because that is only going to break that junior and he will walk away. So false ego, how do you dilute the false ego? So Maharaj was giving a beautiful story. He said one man went to a cafe and in that cafe it was a self-serving. You had to go and pick a glass, a mug, and go to the machine, coffee vending machine, and fill a coffee for yourself. So this particular man went, and there were many beautiful cups over there. He picked up one of the cup, went to the vending machine, filled it up with the hot coffee, came and sat in his place, and is about to drink. Suddenly the cup began to speak. He said, "Sir, my dear master, thank you for picking me up. How are you doing today?" And the man was surprised. "Oh, the cup can speak?" He said, "Yes, I can speak." He said, "Really?" "Yes." "So can you tell me, so how long have you been here?" He said, "I've been here for so long." It means you would have seen all kind of people. He said, "Yes." "So you have been here for so long. What is the greatest lesson that you have learned?" The cup tells a lesson. And he tells, let me tell you my personal story. The greatest lesson that I learned. He said, once upon a time, I was part of the earth. And one day, a master came and he lifted me from the earth, which means mud or clay. He brought me to his place and put into the वो होता है ना छलनी क्या कहेंगे इंग्लिश में strainer, put me into strainer, and he began to shake me. And I was screaming, "Why are you shaking me? Leave me, leave me." And my master said, "Not yet." And I was totally shaken up. After that, he put me into a bucket and then he added water into it. I was yelling, "Why are you making me wet? Leave me, leave me." And my master said, "Not yet." And then he lifted that bucket and he poured into a motor. Motor क्या था ना? What is that? वो जो चलाने वाला होता है. Chakki. Motor? No. You know? So motor or chakki. He poured me into chakki and I was blinded. I was screaming, "Oh, I'm burning. You're killing me. Leave me, leave me." And Master said again, "Not yet." I was grinded, fully grinded. He took me out from there and then he put me into hot sun to dry. Scorching heat. I was yelling, "Leave me, leave me, leave me." And the master said, "Not yet." And then he brought me, I believe, again mixed of water. And then he put me in for baking in an oven, hot temperature, 1000 degree Fahrenheit. I was screaming, I was burning, I was yelling. And again, my master said, "Not yet." And then after that, he took me out. No, not that. Prior to that, he was given a shape by the potter. He was given the shape, and after that, he was put into for baking. And when he was given a shape, he was pressed hard. He was yelling. Then he was put into hot temperature. He was yelling, and then finally, he was brought out. And then different kinds of chemicals were thrown on him. So toxic. I was yelling again, "Please leave me, please leave me." And my master said, "Not yet." They put a glaze, for shining. And after that, he put me again for baking. So high temperature, so high temperature. I was yelling, I was screaming. But my master said, "Not yet." He took me out, finally did a final touch, and then he brought me to this cafeteria. And since then, I have become an object of pleasure for everyone. People come, pick me up, and I'm able to serve them wholeheartedly. Why? When I came over here, and then I asked my master left me here. My master was going. I asked, "Master, where are you going? Where are you leaving me?" Then my master said, "Now you are ready. You are ready to give pleasure to everyone." So Maharaj, while quoting this story, was saying that in material worlds, or to say about in terms of Krishna consciousness, those who are taken to Krishna consciousness or not taken, the nature of the material world is designed in such a way it is going to grind us. The purification means purification of false ego. And Krishna, when he becomes pleased, he doesn't give you wealth. He doesn't give you name and fame. He doesn't give you opulences. In fact, he takes everything away. That is called as grinding. Why? Because unless we have given up everything, until then we cannot really learn to take shelter of the Lord. We have our intelligence, we have our muscle power. This is good only for some years, a few decades. When we grow old, well, our recalling ability would be greatly disturbed. Our physical might will go away. And we have not been trained up to learn to take shelter of the Lord. Then life after life, our grinding will continue. Maybe not in the hands of a good master, but in the hands of Maya Devi. And life after life will keep yelling, "Leave me, leave me, leave me." And Maya Devi will say, "Abhi to shuruaat hua hai. Aage aage dekho hota hai kya." So the challenge that as a sadhaka we all have, exalted devotees mind. Now, what I have said, I would request all of you to please brainstorm at your leisure. Recall an example of any exalted devotee that you know from the pages of the history or in the recent time. Have they gone through the situation or not? You can think deeply about it. Has they gone or not? Because they remained and they allowed, therefore they became advanced. They became mature. Maturity does not come with memorization. It's a very shallow attempt of a Kanishta to show off that I'm somebody, someone, by quoting here and there, but not showing in one's example. That's what means by advanced devotee, and that is what Lord Kapil Dev is saying here. So I'll come to summarization here now, rest of the chapter. Is it making sense? So what are the two symptoms of a mature devotee? First, our perceptions must change. we should ask once in a while and look back what my perceptions are today, and then review it after a while. Have they changed as the scriptures define what our outlook of life, which means material outlook to spiritual outlook? And the second sign of maturity is yes, getting pleasure from correct, but that's not the idea. Idea is serving for the pleasure of Guru and Ganga, not finding pleasure in seva. Serving for the pleasure of Guru and Ganga. And those who can be fixed up on this idea, only those individuals can handle all ups and downs in life. When we render seva, there are three things that happen that we will come across. And what are those three things we'll come across? First is position. You will be given certain position, congregation leader, brahmachari leader, temple president, temple commander. So when you render service, position will come. When you render service, you will get people. People so confidently, devotees so confidently say, my students. A student is speaking about his student. The student ka teacher kaun hai? You know, my students, I don't know from where they get this confidence, saying like this. Anyway, so second is people. We'll get some followers. And third, we'll get resources. We may build a temple, we may build a bank balance, we may get a car, we may get a laptop, we may get a gadget, we may get a private space for working. These three things we're going to get with service, yes or no? But our focus, if it is not on the unchangeable reality, which means seva. If tomorrow one of your followers leaves you, then you will be like Devdas. You'll be roaming around. Mera Majnu chala gaya. People fight for this. Mera counseling mujhe chhodkar chala gaya. Second thing, position. If your service has to be changed, an authority says, well, it ain't working for you. Let's change. Or you have done enough. We need to give chance to others to make it better, because now you just, we get used to it, so we don't make improvements. Then would you be in a situation to give a position thinking that पिछले 10 साल से मैंने इस डिपार्टमेंट की सेवा करी है, पिछले 10 साल से मैं congregation leader रहा हूं? You may think, Prabhuji, for me to give my department is very easy. Anyways, I don't like it. No, that's not the question. Which department for which you have invested your heart and you have tried to serve sincerely, and which you have grown, not which you have maintained. Which you maintain, you'll give it up very easily because you're doing on the platform duty. But which you have grown and expanded it, which means you put your heart into it, and now it is said, give it up. So can you be transcendental to that which is agreeable and not agreeable? Now it may not be agreeable to you, so can we be transcendental? Very, very difficult, very complex. And third, resources. A laptop has been given to a brahmachari, and he had particular outreach seva. Now he's in DT department. Today, temple cannot have that much courage to tell that brahmachari, give the laptop back, we'll give it to another teacher. Here, temple authorities have to surrender. हाँ, तू रख ले, no problem. तू सेवा में लगा रहा है बस. As you move, as you grow, as you understand management, you'll realize. Now, if you look at it from this point of view, our growth is totally mercy case now. Hoping that by some seva, by chanting, something will happen. So not like that, very difficult. So to give up people, to give up position, and to give up resources is such a challenging thing, and all of us will come across that. And when you come across, don't fight against it. So that's an opportunity for us to make an advancement. That's an opportunity for us to realign ourselves. We have joined Krishna consciousness, not for position, not for followers, not for getting a laptop. You could have got all this in outside world anyways. You would become a manager, you would have got a wife as a follower or kids, and you would have got a bank balance. Have you come for that? But somehow in spiritual life also, we get into that idea, a mentality. So to give it up is only possible, or to rise above being agreeable or disagreeable is only possible when our focus has been on dharma. My dharma is to serve. And it's not easy, it's not easy, it's not easy. So your maturity is not gauged by how many shlokas you have memorized. Your maturity is not gauged by how eloquently you can speak, how beautifully you can sing, how nicely you can worship. Prabhupada says our ability to tolerate the provoking situations dictates the greatness of a person. So, what is the greatness of a person? Our ability to tolerate the provoking situation. And that is somewhat is what is mentioned here. The mind becomes equipoised and is transcendental to that which is agreeable or not agreeable. How many of you agree? There could be not agreeable also, but how many of you agree? There are a lot of homework to be done in our personal capacity for myself alone, where I become more malleable and I can become more focused on Krishna. I'm so carried away with what happens around. Because that devotee acts like this, I'll also act like this. How many of you agree to acquire vices is far easier than to acquire good habits, good conduct? Hardly anyone would ever say कि देखो वो सुबह 2:30 बजे उठ के जपा करता है, मुझे भी करना चाहिए. People will say, देखो वो सुबह 8 बजे उठ के ब्रेकफास्ट चला जाता है, मुझे भी ब्रेकफास्ट 8 बजे चाहिए. Yes or no? So we have to be conscious of the self. We got to be conscious of ourselves. That can only happen when we a little bit give out what's happening around us. इस व्यक्ति ने मुझे ये बोला, oh मेरा फॉल्स रिकॉर्ड हो गया. उसने मुझे रेस्पेक्ट नहीं दिया, oh ये हो गया. So it's very difficult. But nonetheless, I hope there are some pointers for it. All right, let's summarize what's happening 25th verse onwards. Because of his transcendent intelligence, the pure devotee is equipoised in his vision, sees himself to be uncontaminated by matter. He does not see anything as superior or inferior, and he feels himself elevated to the transcendent platform of being equal in quality to the Supreme Person. Again, how do you see everything with equality? In other words, how do you see everything being part and parcel of the Lord? How do you see a matter as a spiritual energy? It begins with Ranad api sunichena, Tarur api sahishnuna, Amanadena manadena, Kirtaniya sadahari. Let me connect this point. Why I'm saying humility here. Kirtaniya sadahari, you can only kirtan, which means remember or glorify when you are humble. Which means you can only be in touch with spiritual energy when you are humble. You cannot be in touch with spiritual energy when you are arrogant or etc. So with humility, we get access to it. So because of his trance, the pure devotee is equipoised in his vision and sees himself to the uncontaminated by matter. And now again, go back and look back into the lives of great personalities. Did they exhibited transcendental humility? Narottam Das Thakur was a prince. He'll go and clean up the leftover of his spiritual master. Yes. Srila Prabhupada, um, the greatest gratification in the material life is not even sex life. The greatest gratification in material life is power. You give an unrestricted power, or I want unrestricted power, because if you have that, then you can have as much sex life you want, as much exploitation you want. Yes or no? And Srila Prabhupada had that. And Prabhupada, what do you say? A centralized power, Srila Prabhupada decentralized by creating the GBC body. Because he handed over the management of GBC. Do you think it is easy to do it? All control of temples, all decision making goes to whom? GBC body. Who runs the movement? GBC body. Now, and GBC at times did also things independent of Prabhupada. In 1970, Prabhupada had to leave America and come back because Prabhupada saw these devotees are going haywire, they're not giving me respect. They're not writing my name in the letterhead or in the ISKCON board. Yet Prabhupada created GBC body and empowered followers. his disciples, taught them how to do management. Do you think can anyone do like this? To give a control of his movement in the hands of who he made the ultimate authority? GBC body. So this can only happen when we're deeply rooted in the consciousness of principle of humility. Because when we don't have humility, we will not like to give control. We like to keep all the control. So like that. I'm just giving another perspective of it. Anyways, so text number 26. The Supreme Person God alone is complete transcendent knowledge, but according to different processes of understanding appears differently. And now 26 verse onward discussion is how different people following different processes find Supreme Lord different. Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. Text number 27. Whatever process you take, detachment is common in all. Etavaneva yogena samagnane yogina yujjate vimato hiyartho yat asangastu krishnaha yat asangastu kritnashaha krishnaha. The greatest common understanding for all yogas is complete detachment from matter, which can be achieved by different kinds of yoga. For a karmi, attached. For a jnani, he intellectualized this is matter, this is spirit. For a yogi, in other words, you can say he abhors, matter detached. For a devotee, he engages. He doesn't has to play this, intellectual game. This is matter, this is spirit. He doesn't dislike or hate, but he engages because he sees that also part of spiritual energy. Text number 28. Those who averse to the transcendence realize the supreme absolute differently through speculative sense perception, and therefore because of mistaken speculation, everything appears to be related. Beautiful purports. Please read it out religion for yourself. Anyways, we'll read it in part of Bhakti Vaibhava. Text number 29. Now, Mahat Tattva is being described. We have read before from how Mahat Tattva. I have manifested the false ego, the three modes of material nature, the five elements like that, false ego. Text number 30. एतद्वै श्रद्धया भक्त्या योगाभ्यासेन नित्यशः समाहितात्मा न्यसङ्गो virakya paripashyati. This perfect knowledge can be achieved by a person who is already engaged in devotional service. Now, this was talks about what are the qualifications to receive bhakti. So, Shraddhaya, faith. Etad vai Shraddhaya bhaktya. All right. Shraddha. How many times have we heard the word of Shraddha, right? How would you define Shraddha? What is Shraddha? What is this? Sadhu Sangha क्या है? भजन क्रिया. Shraddha, right? How does it begin? Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajan Kriya. What is Shraddha? Shraddha is not faith. What is Shraddha? Yes? Shraddha which holds. Huh? Okay, what is Shraddha?
Initial appreciation for something.
Initial appreciation for something. Shraddha is our foundation of our life, or Shraddha forms the foundation of our life. Our life that we live is based on Shraddha. And our acharyas describe, Prabhupada have not explicitly spoken, but our acharyas have spoken, there are two types of Shraddha, Laukik Shraddha and Shastriya Shraddha. So when Etadvai Shraddhaya Bhaktya, when Shraddha word is used in scripture, that is not Laukik Shraddha, that is Shastriya Shraddha. What is Laukik and Shastriya Shraddha? Anyone knows? Laukik Shraddha and Shastriya Shraddha? Yes, go ahead. So Laukik Shraddha means belief system of masses. Yatamat Tatapat. Whatever you think, that is becomes a belief system. That is Laukik Shraddha. What is Shastriya Shraddha? Shastriya Shraddha means grounded or based on scriptures. So when I said Etad vai Shraddhaya Bhaktya, the qualification is faith. That faith has to come from scriptures. Which means, for example, let me ask this question to you. For all of you, those who are staying in centers, so it is kind of a protocol, so you can't avoid it. Just like hearing morning classes and maybe some reading of scriptures, etc. But those who have taken to bhakti, but I have not yet developed Shraddha, Shastri Shraddha, or they don't actually really study scriptures or hear scriptures on a regular basis, you'll see them, their bhakti is so totally diversified. You know, they don't know whom to really worship. Because in the association devotees, they've got to know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality Godhead, but they don't have Shraddha still, that how Krishna is only my shelter. Aradhyo Bhagavan Vajesh Taniyos Tadhama Vrindavanam. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Vajesh Taniyos, no Dwarka Krishna, no Mathura Krishna, no Rama, no Simha, only Vrindavan Krishna. And Ramya Kachit Upasanam Vrajavadhu Vargena Vahakalpitaha. And what is the highest mode of worship? Set by Vrajavadhu's gopis. So this faith can only happen from reading of scriptures or hearing of scriptures. So when we are practicing our bhakti life, we have to ask a question to ourselves. Our Shraddha, that is because of our culture, if it is because of culture, our Shraddha will also disappear as the culture changes, as a conflict happens. So anyway, it's a big subject, but I'm just giving some inputs here. Reading of scriptures has to be as compulsory as eating food every day. If you don't do it, it will be very difficult. So we have already created few initiatives. I'm going to launch few more initiatives. Let's make one initiative stable, then we'll do it next. So right now we launched Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya or Bhagavatam Sevaya, where we are giving opportunity for everyone to start their reading groups. You know, because reading by ourselves becomes boring. But when you have a group of people, and particularly when you're leading a group, then you have a sense of responsibility. यार 4 लोग आते हैं, मैं पहुंचू ना पहुंचू, वो जरूर जूम मीटिंग में पहुंच जाते हैं. उनके खातिर, उनकी श्रद्धा के खातिर मुझे चला जाना चाहिए. So there needs to be impetus. And ultimately, Machita Madgata Prana Bodhyanta Parasparam. When we come together, practice of bhakti, although even in an unfavorable situation, becomes favorable. So, like that, at least we created some initiative. And next initiative, which as my time permits, we're going to start a systematic study program for every Prabhupada book, beginning from the very fundamental book. And for each of it, we're going to have classes and we're going to have quizzes. I'm going to make a quiz-based program for every book now. Anyways, our mobile app, we have not officially announced, but mobile app is ready now. And that you can easily attempt. You can watch it later on also and do quizzes. So to make it systematic, Prabhupada wanted there should be educational programs so that people will study seriously. Anyways, so that's our little attempt at my end to facilitate education. Okay, text number 31. Iti etat katitam gurvi jnanam tad brahma darshanam yena anubuddhyate tattvam prakati purushasya cha. My dear respectful mother, Kapil Dev concludes, I have already described the path of understanding the absolute truth by which one can come to understand the real truth of matter and spirit and their relationships. Text number 32. Philosophical research culminates in understanding Supreme Personality of Godhead. After achieving this understanding, when one becomes free from the material modes of nature, he attains the stage of devotional service. Either by devotional service directly or by philosophical research, one has to find the same destination, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text number 33, these are concluding words. A single object is appreciated differently by different senses due to its having different qualities. Bhagavan appreciated Brahman as Paramatma. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, but according to different scripture injunctions, he appears to be different. Text number 34 to 36, different processes are defined. By performing fruitive activities and sacrifices, by distributing charity, austerities, studying various literatures, conducting philosophical research, controlling mind, subduing the senses, accepting outside of life, performing prescribed duties, Varnashram Dharma, by performing the different divisions of yoga practice, by performing devotional service, exhibiting the process of devotional service, containing the symptoms of both attachment and detachment, by understanding the science of self-realization, by developing a strong sense of detachment. One is expert at understanding the different processes of self-realization, realizes the Supreme Personality of Godhead as he is represented in the material world as well as in transcendence. Very important purport, who talks about all these different processes which this was mentioned. Text number 37. My dear mother, I've explained to you the process of bhakti. its identity in 4 different social divisions according to the modes and Shuddha Sattva. I've explained to you as well how eternal time is chasing the living entities, although it is imperceptible to them. These are the questions asked. Text number 38. There are varieties of material existence for the living entities according to the work he performs, and ignorance or forgetfulness of his real identity. My dear mother, if anyone enters into the forgetfulness, he is unable to understand where his movements will end. There is a movement discussion also. No? Text number 39. Lord Kapila continued, this instruction is not meant for the, now who cannot understand this? Again, envious, agnostics, who are unclean in the behavior, breaking 4 regular principles. Nor is it for hypocrites or for persons who are proud of material possessions. Janma, what is that? Janma Ashwara Shuta Ashibhir. Text number 40. It is not to be instructed to persons who are too greedy, Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam, to attach to family life, not to persons who are non-devotees or envious of the devotees or of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, whom instruction can be given? Shraddhadhanaya bhaktaya vinitya anusuyave bhute shukrit maitraya susrushabhirataya cha. Instruction should be given to the faithful devotee who is respectful to the spiritual master, non-envious, friendly to all kinds of living entities, eager to render service with faith and sincerity. This instruction should be imparted by the spiritual master to persons who have taken the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be more dear than anything, who are not envious of anyone, who are perfectly cleansed, and who have developed detachment for that which is outside the purview of Krishna consciousness. And the last verse. Ya idam shunyadam ba shraddhaya purushaskrat yava bhidatte machittaha sahi eti padavam chame. Anyone who meditates upon me with faith and affection, who hears and chants about me, surely goes back home, back to Godhead. So, sign of maturity, nirmasaranam, which means non-envious. And sign of maturity is, as a different meaning for what nirmasaranam is, giving up selfishness, becoming selfless and compassionate. With this, chapter ends. There were many important verses. It would have taken a lot of time, and the class would have really gone beyond its, prescribed timings. So we'll discuss that in Bhakti Vaibhav program. Nonetheless, I gave you some overview. Chapter 32 ends. Chapter 33 will talk about Mother Devhuti attaining love of Godhead, Lord Kapila giving a final instruction, and the life of Lord Kapila Dev thereafter. And like that, this chapter 33 concludes with some very important verses. Very important verses. Particularly, there's a beautiful section about the glorification of the holy name and glorification of those who chant the holy names of the Lord. With that, I'll pause here for today. Just to recap, what was the discussion? So we started discussing about bhakti to be the highest path everyone should take to bhakti, and the qualities of advanced devotees. And there were 2 things: mind is equipoised, and they don't get influenced by the dualities of this world. So therefore, I spoke about what does it mean to be a mature devotee, advanced devotee. First, we can see how progressive we are in bhakti if our perceptions are changing. Second, from I to we, from selfishness to selflessness, from this world is for my enjoyment to this world is for my seva. I should serve. I should become an object of pleasure for everyone. And second thing about the sign of maturity is the services. What was the second point? The services, focusing on unchangeable reality, where seva is the focus, and which means we render service for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. We need to move beyond the platform of duty. Well, that is also good. If you are not even situated there, that is better. But after that, we need to focus on for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. Like that, we can gauge our advancement or maturity, and like this, we can go beyond the modes of material nature. But there is a great challenge, and the challenge is False ego is a great challenge. False ego's role is to always defend and protect itself. And as we render services, we will get three things in our life: people, positions, and resources. And Krishna have designed this world in such a way, eventually everything is taken away. So how do you dilute false ego? So the way Krishna helps in diluting false ego is taking things away from us. And when things are taken from away from us to which we are attached, it becomes very painful. How do you act that time? You go and take shelter of other people who have been complaining about management, finding faults with this con, and also say, yeah, these people cheat us like this, we do everything, and then they take it and give it to somebody else. We take association of advanced devotees and understand how do we see the situation and continue being an object of pleasure of other rather than becoming a pleasure or object of nonsense for everyone around by taking to the path of fault finding and complaining. And thereafter, I just kind of read through the verses translation. Uh, Ultimately, Kapila says, well, everyone has to practice bhakti like that. Hare Krishna. Jagadaru Srila Prabhupada ki. Any questions or any comments from anyone on the subject matter? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat
Yes.
Pranam.
Dandavat.
The question from this session, actually you had given the example of that a mug ना, तो
Yes.
क्लास में उसका क्या वो क्यों माया के बारे में मैंने कुछ समझा नहीं actually. Can you
The idea was the mug was nothing but a clay. And ultimately, by the hands of the master, it
Yes.
turned into a mug, and the journey was very painful.
Yes.
And when it turned into a mug, then it became an object of pleasure.
Yes. I understood that, but how
So
come
diluting false ego is not going to be an easy process, it's going to be a painful process. More painful for those who are attached in defending the false ego.
Okay, Acha Prabhuji, okay. Actually, I did not follow that properly, so I asked you again. Sorry.
No problem, Mother. Thank you for reminding me. I should have done a recap of this example. That's okay.
Again.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Seeing matter as spiritual energy.
Seeing matter as spiritual energy. Yes. Oh, it's always a repeated thing. The vision becomes one. Devotee would see Krishna everywhere. Seeing Krishna means what? Seeing everything spiritual.
As an object to please the Lord.
When you see that it belongs to Krishna, then obviously you will use it in Krishna's service. Like that. Fine. And this reality is very much possible. I've had the fortune of being with one of Prabhupada's disciples, and I observed this quality in him. This was a lady, how everything she saw in the spiritual paradigm. I'm seeing a tree. We're driving together. We're going somewhere. I'm seeing a tree, but she would not see a tree. She would see Krishna's energy. I would say, Mataji, what a wonderful weather it is. She will not see it as a weather. She sees a manifestation of Krishna's grace. And I saw her, and I would many times intentionally would do to see how would she respond. She saw everything in relation to Krishna. Everything. And she was so calm, kind of a person. Amazing personality. So yeah, this is there. There's so much factual. So much she had gone through her life. No complaints. Only one who is situated on a spiritual platform can really appreciate others and will not hold grudges for others. There's no concept of grudges only that time. His heart becomes so filled with appreciation and gratitude for others, regardless of the others like him or dislike him. They betray him or they serve him. On a management role and a managerial position, he may, just to set an example for others, not to get caught up. But in his own personal life and dealings, he will not have that. Well, ultimately, you look at, therefore, we are reading the Shikshamrita, Srila Prabhupada letters. When people wanted to leave, let's say they had a conflict with Vaishnavas, you know what Prabhupada would say? I am fine. First of all, the Prabhupada would say, you should never leave Vaishnava association. Okay, if you're not comfortable here, go somewhere else. Whatever happens, Siddha Sarupa Ananda Prabhu, who became Maharaj later on, not by Prabhupada, he wanted to leave ISKCON. Prabhupada allowed him to leave ISKCON also. There's a letter. And he loved Prabhupada, but he just couldn't gel with the community members. Prabhupada said, all right, but do not leave Krishna. Whatever happens, you should not leave Krishna consciousness. Not that Prabhupada wanted to keep people in his pocket. Okay, not suiting. What can be done? I'm trying, you tolerate. If you're not able to tolerate, but don't give up Krishna consciousness. But the matter of fact is, we're not advanced enough. Without devotees, you cannot even maintain Krishna consciousness. You know? But that was the outlook of Prabhupada. You know? Not like, you leave me, I curse you. Like that. So, devotees, yeah. Prabhupada was so much filled with gratitude. So much filled with gratitude. So yeah, that's something which we cannot, we can desire to have it. We should have a desire for it to be, but that ultimately will come through the mercy. Or somewhere we have to start, na? Every day of our life is a test where Krishna is observing how you're gonna do today. Do you pass or do you fail? When you fail, you will not have challenges in your life. But when you pass, you will have challenges in life. As you're moving forward, examination level and the question paper becomes tougher or easier. As you're moving forward, to that degree, challenges will come. But those who are thinking, बस मुझे शांति शांति चाहिए, कुछ नहीं होना चाहिए, भक्ति तो है ही नहीं वो. They're not even started bhakti. They are more of monist kind of people. They're just taken to bhakti just to get freedom from their suffering. Not like that. So if our school teachers can create papers for you year after year, how many people Krishna can create for us? And real-time application, not static. Yeah, anyways, ठीक है. Yes, Kamala, go ahead.
We have a long question. I have written it down.
Okay.
You were asking. It's something, a serious question in whole Islam, community.
Is it audible? Kamalatpu is audible online? Go ahead, say Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
No.
Are you unmuted? अबे पढ़ क्या कर रहा है? मोबाइल लेके बैठा मुझे जूम पे बोल रहा है. हाँ तो बोलना, जूम नहीं है तेरे पे, सुनाई कहाँ से देगा? क्या हुआ? Oh, ये लो, give it to this. Anywhere visible? Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit lengthy question, but I
Now,
think
is it audible?
so.
Yes.
In ISKCON, service is the basis of relationship. When we strive to strengthen our relationship, we should serve. This is what we are doing usually. Sometimes exchanges during service become so mechanical and dry that it seems there is all head and no heart. Then again, relationship becomes strained. Because as a novice spiritualist, one needs some personalized connect. And when it lacks service is rare, but the spirit of service is not there. Due to lack of relationship, it all becomes mechanical. Movement is growing, community is growing, but internally, a follower is not growing. He feels lack of shelter in midst of all external facilities. The feeling may come that people care about services, but probably not about me individually. What you will suggest to any such follower? Because in bigger ISKCON forum, there may be so many such people, and maybe I may be one of them. Somebody may be here, sitting here, who is like that.
So there are different angles, but there are too many things you mentioned in this question. Let me take one by one, how much ever I could capture your question. And if anything missed, you can say that. First thing is, it is our individual responsibility to rise up to the spiritual platform. Ashok, just receive it and take a message and find out who. तुम लोग मुझे phone उठा लेते हो, फिर पूछते नहीं कौन है. So, what I was saying, first of all, we should not miss out our own individual responsibility. Please understand, as Krishna says, Chaturvidha bhajante mam, or as Prabhupada mentioned this chapter also, people at times accept dharma just because they were frustrated in their life. And many of us have come from that background because we found greater gratification here than what we were having in the outside world. That is okay as a starting point, but we need to move forward. And unless we ourselves wholeheartedly accept why am I here in Krishna consciousness and what's the goal of Krishna consciousness, process will become mechanical because you're practicing mechanically. So the first component is to really have that sense when I'm doing something. When you call it seva, it can only be called as seva when it is done in the mood of seva. And what is the mood of seva? The mood of seva is, I do it for your pleasure. Let's say somebody asks you, Kamala, please get a warm glass of water. ठीक है, पानी मांगा, पानी दे देता हूँ. And you bring a cold water. You will call it seva for you. मैंने तो सेवा कर दी ना. आपने पूछा था पानी लेकर आओ, मैंने पानी दे दिया. But you have not paid attention that by seva that you rendered, the person to whom you rendered that, because seva means you have to render it to somebody, na? Was he pleased or displeased? Now, when you act on that mechanical way, then you're not doing service. So it's an individual problem that we face with. Now, when it comes to relationship, we say, when you serve together, relationship develops. True, it will develop. It has to develop without a doubt. But if Krishna is in the center. But if in that relationship, I is in the center, which means we may externally perform devotional activities, but the objective is one. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. As long as our gratification is continuing, I sit with you. Some people say, "Pro prasad, मेरे से नहीं बैठ के खाओ, मेरे से नहीं बैठो, यहाँ बैठो." And 2 हफ्ते बाद एक दूसरी शक्ल नहीं देखते वो लोग. So much it happens because they never had Krishna is in the center. When you put Krishna in the center means you put instruction of Guru and Gauranga in the center. So you see how much we carry as a part of responsibility at our end. What's our goal? So if our goal was to practice mechanically, Krishna will reciprocate that way. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. Of course, there's a responsibility of the leadership side also. Leadership side responsibility on different levels. One is to create an ethos, right ethos, which means there has to be culture of care. Culture of care cannot happen if there's no culture of education. Without education, how would people care? Unless they understand we're supposed to serve each other. So there has to be a spiritual culture, there has to be a spiritual education. When you have a culture and education, then you get devotional experience. That is the responsibility of a leader. He cannot just say, okay, I create a culture, I create a program. Every Sunday evening there will be DT, there will be Gaurati, there will be Prasadam. What about education? Somebody should give class also, na? And not somebody, you should give class yourself. If you are setting up a culture, people will see you how much you know. So you should give class also. So if the leader doesn't follow that thing himself, not is failing to create a culture, right ethos for the community, based on service, not based on I and mine, not based on sentiments, we spend all our life in this taking care of this mundane sentiments. He said like this, I like that. Please understand, whenever you feel hurt, be convinced that's your false ego. You need to figure out how to rise above it. You cannot keep running behind your counsel and leader. मुझे उस वक्त ये कह दिया, मुझे उस वक्त ये कह दिया. कब तक तुम्हारा वो? It's just like cleaning up your stool and urine. For how long is going to do babysitting for you? Like that. So if we don't take responsibility, and of course leader has a responsibility, when Prabhupada so many times said in purport, when there's a right combination of a speaker and a student in relation to Parishad Mahan Sukdev Goswami, in relation to Vidura and Matrimony, then beautiful, something beautiful manifests. So even if you're the right leader, what about the followers? We may have situation where maybe the follower is sincere, leader may not be, leader is sincere, taking care of everything, but the follower may not be. That is what the material world is. You cannot have a perfect situation. So you cannot run away from the situation. Don't run away from the situation. If you want, become the part of the solution. How? By not talking about the problem, but by suggesting solution and living through that solution. So there will be people who would give solutions. There will be people who will talk about problems, but implementation, only very few can do it because that requires sacrifice. That requires selflessness. क्या मेरा सब कुछ ठीक चल रहा है ना, मुझे क्या करना तेरे से? मेरा सुबह 16 माला हो जाता है, कोई आए ना आए मुझे क्या लेना देना, मेरी तो भक्ति चल रही है ना, बस अपना प्रसादम मिला किसी को, आई शुड गेट 4 चपातीज, मेरे बाद 3 लोगों को प्रसाद मिले, मुझे क्या करना है? So when those who are in I-centric too much, they would fail. And I'll conclude this last point. On this subject, we had a discussion on a false ego in our recent meetings. And very interesting conclusion came out. No brahmachari changes ashram because of lust, because of anything. It is superficial. Every change of ashram or people leave bhakti only because of one reason, false ego. Cause of false ego. Nothing else. And that false ego, because in that false ego, you'll commit aparadh and all that, and the reaction would be attraction to opposite sex, attraction to material life. But false ego is the only thing. So remember the story of mug. False ego is like getting purified of false ego means getting purified of impurities. And that's not easy. That's always going to be painful. So pain and Krishna consciousness should be seen as a remedy. And we should not reject it, because the more we reject it, the more we prevent ourselves from maturing. You know, no pain, no gain has to be there. So therefore, we should not have flimsy idea of spiritual life. Rather, we should prepare ourselves for getting purified. When you prepare yourself to getting purified, then you can handle chastisement, corrections, or comments, or fault finding, or whatever in a good spirit. When you're not prepared, you'll throw tantrums. When you're not prepared for bhakti life only, it's a matter of time. Somebody will come and put their feet on the snake of your false ego. And then you can continue hissing. What's the point? What's the point? All right. So, Mother Chintamani, please go ahead. If your hand is up for something.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes.
I had a question. One is that when it comes to Guhyam Akhyati Prichati, when we deal with our peers, so at that time, the discussion is mostly on positive aspect, or even people can come out with their whatever negative feelings they have. That is one question I had. Another thing is,
Let's go one by one. Guhyam Akhyati Prachiti ideally should be a forum where you can express. Because when you can express, then you feel a little relaxed. Because of our perceptions and limited understandings of life and of others, we have created so many fictitious stories, and which may not be true at all. Particularly the greatest misunderstanding who have is the managers or those who are in the management. How much ever you do, any management or any leadership, when they make any decision, they make a decision not for an individual, they make a decision keeping in mind the faith of the whole community, how the faith of the whole community can be protected and preserved. And when you do that, some of the people, they're going to get disturbed because according to them, how it should have happened, didn't happen, because they don't have an understanding of the larger community. They see from their perspective. And they were so much attached to the idea, nahi, isko aisa karta, to mujhe tab theek lagta. But it doesn't work like that. So anyways, even in those situations who have got like this kind of misunderstandings, the Guhyam Akhyati Prachiti is present our point of view with humility, not challenging way, and then hear what's the understanding for it. And I can tell you, most of the time when we do it, our mind becomes completely calm and composed because we are living with our own perceptions, misunderstandings, and then we realize, oh yeah, actually now I understood why so and so Prabhu or so and so leadership made a decision in this way. It was keeping everyone's interest. And if in case he would have done it the way I wanted it, that would have actually caused a lot of problems. So maybe he's right. So like that, so doing a market conversation, this candid conversation helps. What's next?
Prabhuji, but doesn't it tantamount to Vaishnava Aparadh?
How Vaishnava Prad?
Means if somebody is talking against their seniors, or if somebody is talking against their
Okay.
peers.
Yeah, no, not like that. First of all, when any such thing has to happen, if it is in a private forum, then we can discuss and present again in a mood of humility that Prabhu, this is the situation. I would like to understand how to see it. Please help me. If it is in a public forum, a public means there is more than one person, then make sure you never take a name of a person. And again say, this is how I see it. Humility means you're willing to accept your perception could be wrong. So upfront you say, "Bhai, this is how I see it, and I know I can be totally wrong, but I'm just sharing my thoughts because when I speak, my feelings get exhausted. And when they get exhausted, I like pacified. So therefore it's needed. How you speak matters a lot. And if you don't speak, anytime sooner, anyways, you're gonna speak. For how long can you hold on to the pressure cooker? And then when it blasts, तब तो बहुत ही ज्यादा वो होगा किसी को कुछ नहीं होने वाला वो व्यक्ति अपना ही जीवन बर्बाद कर लेगा nothing gonna happen to senior nothing gonna happen to management nothing gonna happen to ISKCON is going on everything is going on. That fellow will make a public humiliation for himself, that's all, nothing else. Okay.
Yes, Prabhuji. Another thing is that it is said that when Krishna likes somebody, he takes away everything from you, including
Yeah.
everything. It happened with Prabhupada, it happened
Yes.
maybe many people. But Prabhuji, how does one person, especially it is said that he takes away no longer no longer yogaksheham vahamyam, he'll take away everything from you. And so, like if he takes away everything from you, everybody goes away from you. How does that person sort of re-establish himself?
One disciple came to Prabhupada. Prabhupada, I have decided to give everything and join ashram. Prabhupada gave one line answer. What belongs to you that you can give? So when we are into this question that Krishna will take away everything, we have to ask ourselves, what actually belongs to us? If you're on that platform misunderstanding that something belonged to me, this is my husband, this is my child, nothing belonged to me. To whom it belonged has been taken by him. That's all. So we got to change our platform where we are looking at things. Nothing belongs to us. And when Krishna does it, there are two ways. Krishna will do it for devotees, or Krishna's energy, Maya Devi, will do it for non-devotees. So when Maya Devi is in picture, when she does it, it becomes very painful because person thinks it is mine. In case of a devotee, when Krishna takes away, take an example. Think about Narada the boy. This is such a fantastic example. 5-year-old boy, he has no father, he has no siblings, nobody he has. His mother has died. When I read for the first time, I felt it is so unjust. How can things be so cruel on top of it? And now the boy says, he began to think about Bhakti Vedantas and their teachings, and he said, this must be the will of the Lord. And he happily accepted it. And it took me a long time to accept it. Forget about happily. How is this possible? And now when I look back at it, yeah, correct. It's just our understanding on what platform we are standing and looking at it. And he walked away. And why he walked away gracefully in such a turbulent situation? Because his focus was on the unchangeable reality. which means his focus was, in this case, on the sound vibration of Bhakti Vedantas, like that. So yeah. I'll conclude
you
with this
so much.
point. I conclude with this point, maybe a take-home message for everyone. We need to begin focusing on our own bhakti life. We don't give enough focus on our own personal, our own bhakti. We are too caught up hearing about what others are doing, commenting about others. If we can just pay attention to our own bhakti, then we'll have a lot of homework to do, which will save us from spending time and thinking about what others are doing or not doing, finding faults and complaining. That will help us and save us and keep us protected. I guess we should pause here for today. It's
Thank you so
9:20.
much. Sir.
Jagadu Srila
Thank you, sir.
Prabhupada ki. Thank you, Mother. Thank you for that thoughtful question. Srimad Bhagavatam ki. Jai. Hare Krishna.